Coronavirus.
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 From tonight, you can only leave your home for very specific reasons.
Will disrupt the ordinary lives of almost everybody in the country.
Today, the World Health Organization officially announced that this is a global pandemic.
I think we're in the middle of a massive experiment. Will people listen to scientists?
There have now been more than 10,000 people infected with the virus in Italy.
About 20% of people infected with COVID-19 are going to need hospitalization.
14 more people across Britain have died.
657 more people have now died.
684.
Further 758.
1,019. 3,605.
10,000.
Because obviously people are feeling very worried and very scared.
You're to stay at home. The Prime Minister remains in intensive care.
National emergency.
The way ahead is hard, and it is still true that many lives will sadly be lost. To halt the growth of this virus, there will come a moment when no health service in the world could possibly cope. The coronavirus is the biggest threat this country has faced for decades. To stay at home, protect our NHS, and save lives.
During the first lockdown, it came as a bit of a shock really. There was obviously, in the last few weeks before we went into the lockdown in March, there was a lot of coverage in the national news about the potential of having to go into a national lockdown. But to be honest, I didn't really think that would happen. I thought, oh, it won't get that bad. And then lo and behold, obviously Boris announced that we would be going into a lockdown on March 23rd. So it all happened rather suddenly. To begin with, I was quite glad from a teaching perspective, because we'd had a few disruptions in the college year, and I was grateful to have maybe a couple of weeks to just get things back in order, not knowing obviously how long lockdown would actually last for, and then very quickly realised that okay, this is quite a different situation to what I first thought, and it felt quite overwhelming, I guess. I think if I was to go back to the start of lockdown, hindsight's a brilliant thing, isn't it? And you think you know what to expect from a situation, but you never really do, and it's only upon trial and error that you realise how things could have been done better. And then coming back in September, well, I actually came in during June and July, I was one of the few members of staff that came on campus to support some learners on a one-to-one basis. So I'd already sort of had an insight into the new procedures that are in place around the building, so the one-way system. To begin with, they were taking people's temperatures as they walked into reception. I remember thinking in June, well, how is that going to be practical when all of the students are back on campus? There's going to be like queues of students. So that was quite a shock, really, to see things like that in place. But then when we came back in September, I wouldn't say things had been relaxed, but the procedures had been reviewed and had been made more practical for the college environment to accommodate more students on campus again. So for me as a teacher, it's made me really value the role of a teacher and how we support young people, especially at the sort of 16 to 18-year-old age range. If I were to describe lockdown in 3 words, I'd describe it as insightful, scary and emotional.
I felt very weird about the first lockdown, but was quite excited. For lack of a better word, it was all very new and everything was going on at once, so it was all just kind of in your face at once. I spent my time in lockdown doing schoolwork and studying other areas that I couldn't study in school, and I think I made the most of what I could have done in lockdown. If I were to go back to March 23rd, I would spend more time outside and spend more time out rather than just sat inside all the time. School's changed as there was a lot more hygiene added back in. You had to wash your hands, wear masks in the corridors, and years were separated from each other so you didn't cross bubbles. And I don't think we should have gone back in September. It was too early and it caused a spike in the cases. I would describe it as exhausting, weird and new. It's changed my view as I've put a lot more effort into my own schoolwork. I've realised I actually do need to put my own effort into it rather than just asking for teachers' help all the time.